All right. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for joining. We are here with the Bid Ready series in partnership with Empire State Development's GoSemi and the Division of Minority and Women's Business Development Offices. We aim to provide resources to get firms contract ready. So our agenda for today is we are doing our welcome right now. We will have a brief introduction and overview to the Bid Ready series and what we aim to achieve. Today, we will have a presentation from Pike Construction Services. After their presentation, we will review questions from our guests gathered upon registration and then also here via our Q&A feature. So if you go to your screen at the bottom, you will see an option to put in a question. You can do that at any time during the session and we will answer them later. After Q&A, ESD will provide some announcements on upcoming events and resources, and then we will close. Just a couple things before we get started. Our chat feature today is off because this is a webinar, but if you're having any issues or have a question, please message any of the moderators and we will do our best to answer. By entering the room today, you are agreeing to be recorded and you agree to be courteous to all individuals in this room. Please note the views presented in today's webinar are those of the speaker and do not necessarily represent the views of ESD or New York State government. So just a quick overview on the Bid Ready series. Bid Ready is aimed at supporting small businesses, MWBEs, and SDVOBs become bid ready as New York State enters a massive era of development. There are many requirements needed to be successful on a large-scale project. Bid Ready bridges the resource gap. Join us as we provide resources to demystify what can be a complex process, facilitate conversations with experienced prime contractors, and answer your questions. Joining today are representatives from ESD's Division of Minority and Women's Business Development team and our small business team. They are here to help you navigate these challenges. Please feel free to reach out to them individually after our event today. I see a note that there is some difficulty in the audio. Can everyone hear me okay? Okay. If there are any issues, please feel free to reach out again. Okay, great. Thank you. All right. I will now pass to Brendan, today's facilitator, to introduce himself and also today's prime.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Brendan Regan. I'm the Director of Contract Participation with ESD. And I'd like to introduce Kathy Rooney from Pike Construction Services, who'll give you a brief overview of Pike and how to become a partner in their forthcoming projects.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's nice to be here. I'm seeing some names that are familiar to me, so that's always nice. And we're happy to kick off the Bid Set Ready series for ESD. Well, actually, I called it Ready Set Bid because that's what we have to do. Next slide, please. So in today's agenda, we'll go over some introductions of myself and Pike, go over a go, no-go process, the commercial useful function and NICS codes. We're going to talk a little bit about, the project overview, what we're looking at, what we, are looking at to work with you, documents that you have to look at, key dates, what to look out for, and then open it up to questions. So next slide. So again, like I said, I'm Kathy Rooney. I've been with Pike for over 30 years, and I'm very proud to work here. And what I think is cool is that we're fifth generation of family ownership, and we've been in the same building since 1873. Not only were we founded in 1873, we're still working out of the same building. Pike consistently makes it into the 150 top contractors. We're certified as a great place to work, and we're proud to say that we have 82% repeat customers. and we do about $800 million to $1 billion worth of constructed value per year. So any contractor also understands to get that kind of value. There's a lot of bidding that goes on because we hear no more than we hear yes, right? So we have our main offices here in Rochester, and we have other offices in Buffalo, Utica, Albany, and Orlando. We have a diverse portfolio of what we do. We work on different type buildings. We work K through 12 and university education. We work in healthcare, manufacturing, distribution. We've got a robust senior living and affordable housing group. We provide services such as being the general contractor on the job, the construction manager, design build. We have a group called Pike Facility Services, and what that is that's our like small works group. So it handles projects 2 million and under, and we have Pike Facility Services in our Utica, Albany, and Buffalo offices. And then we self-perform concrete, site work, and masonry. Next slide, please. So I think everybody has heard of a project coming up in Albany for the OGS testing lab. And on that project will be Jenna Abato, who's our director of estimating and taking the lead on this one, Brian Hallett, myself. Donna Jones is a contract coordinator, and she assists me in making sure that the certified firms and the small businesses have opportunities on our projects, whether it's a first-tier opportunity, a second-tier opportunity. Danelle is our estimating coordinator, and Mike Benson is our executive vice president, and he manages the Albany office. So next slide, please. So I want to talk about the no-go process. This is something Pike goes through for every project that we do. That includes, even if it's what Pike considers a Pike Facility Services, the under $2 million, and we look at the location. Not only when is the bid due to us, when is the due date for the client? What type of contract it is? Who is the client? Who's the owner? Who's the architect? Who's our competition on the project? And believe it or not, there's different people or different firms that we look at and we say if they're bidding, it probably isn't worth us going after. Is the job tax exempt? What's the full value of the project? Is there a project labor agreement? Are there liquidated damages? What's the schedule of the project? What's the labor availability? Is it a prevailing rate project? Is it open shop? Can we be competitive? And what back office staff is it going to take? Some projects are more paper heavy than others. What are the insurance requirements on the project? How much is it going to cost us to get the correct insurances? What are the general conditions and general requirements? And you know what the biggest thing is? Can we make a profit? Next slide, please. So again, one of the projects that's on our books right now is OGS, the DOT testing lab. And this is going to be a really cool project. It's over 100,000 square feet. It's going to have a geothermal heating cooling system, well fields extending 800 below the surface, high bay warehouse and garage. It's going to be built so that it can expand in the future. It's going to just be a really cool project for the DOT. And that DOT is committed to reducing environmental impact. We can go ahead to the next slide, please. So, this is a hard bid, low bid wins. I'm sure everybody has been in the bid room when you put your heart and soul into winning this job, only to find out that you came in second, third, fourth, right? It's disappointing, and it's expensive to bid these projects. That's why you have to go back and look at the go, no go, just to make sure it's the right project for your company to go after. This happens to be a ground up, so it's covering many facets of construction. It's tax exempt. Its construction value is going to be between 1.5 and 200 million. There is a project labor agreement on the project. So, there's always little different nuances like that. So what you want to do is you want to understand what is a project labor agreement. You want to read it and make sure if you're not a union contractor, this is something you can do. There's certified payroll. So since I think it was 2025, correct me if I'm wrong, that New York State DOT, or sorry, New York State DOL said we need to be registered with them for any project that has certified payroll. This year they started, you have to put your certified payroll on their system. So when we're accepting a bid from you that has prevailing rate on it, we are expecting you to put on the bid form that you are, your New York State DOL number, showing that you're compliant with the laws. The substantial completion is 1,095 days, and there's liquidated damages, and we love to share the risk. So liquidated damages do filter down. So, pay attention to your subcontract and what that really means. There is 20% NBE, 10% WBE, and 6% SDVOB requirements on this project. Next slide. So again, like I said, the scopes of work are from, underground utilities, site work, concrete, masonry. And typically for Pike, on any of our projects, we're going to have concrete, we're going to have site work, we're going to have structural steel, we're going to have wood framing, we're going to have windows, drywall, all the interior finishes, exterior finishes, paving, pavement marking. So we want to get to know you. And I'm not sure if I'm going to come across right, but we, like everybody, we get busy, and we're going to take priority emails first, which means if we're bidding a project and you're contacting me for a different project, it might be a few days before I get back to you. Please don't take that personal. Please don't take that I, don't want to talk to you. And sometimes I think we all know email can overwhelm us. If I don't get back to you within 3 days, send me another tickler and say, hey, Kathy, I sent you this email. Can you please respond? I will get back to you. Might be embarrassed that you had to follow up with me, but I will get back to you, and I certainly won't take it personal or that you're being too pushy. So next slide. So one thing that we have to be very careful of when there are goals on the project are the NYX codes that are assigned to the MWBEs, SDVOBs, and the commercially useful function. So if you're bidding us on a private job and your NYX codes are for drywall, but you want to bid us on painting, that's fantastic. And we'll hire you for painting. On a project that has goals and the NYX codes, it's not that we're not going to hire you for painting, it's that we can't incorporate your value into our utilization plan. So we do watch that very carefully so that we are making sure that we are following the law. So we do, require you to have the proper NYX code. If you're calling and saying, hey, I'm a certified sub, but again, you're bidding on, painting and your code is for drywall, like I said, it doesn't mean we're not going to use you. Utilize you on the project. It just means we can't count you towards the goals. And when we know that there's a project that has goals, in our kickoff meeting, that's a priority. How are we going to meet these goals? What subs work in that area? Who have we worked for in the past, or who have we worked with in the past? What scopes of work are out there? Do we have enough W&Ms and SDVOBs that perform that type of work? So we're coming up with a plan on bid day of how or not on bid day, I apologize. When we decide, that's part of our go, no go, when we decide to do the job. We're coming up with that plan then. And then we want to make sure that you are responsible for the work. So if I talk to you that day and say, hey, this is for painting, we think it's going to take 20 painters, how many are on your staff? And you say, well, I don't have any employees, that's not a commercially useful function if you're going to be subbing it out to other people. So you want to be careful about all that. You have to be manage the negotiating, the determining your quantity, quality, ordering material, installing material, the supervision of the work, and the same thing with suppliers. You have to have a revolving inventory from a facility that you own or lease in order to fulfill the commercially useful function. And if you go out to ESD's website, it'll give you the flyer and you can look in detail. Doesn't mean that, like I said, doesn't mean that we're not going to work with you or that we're not going to help you to grow and make it to the next step. It just means that we have to follow the law. And in order for us to fulfill our obligation, we have to make sure all these little, I's are dotted and T's are crossed. Next slide, please. So the next thing, when you are reviewing documents, you want to read. I know we preach here that our team working on the job, you need to know your contract documents. So we'll go back to painting. So if you're doing the painting, don't just look at your painting scope. Go back to the front ends, read the front ends, because that's where you're going to find if there's any mock-ups that you have to do for painting, any temporary protection of your finished painting. It's going to cover a variety of information, any special safety inspections, any special submittals. You need to know all that because that adds money onto your cost of doing work. So you need to be aware of that. So always read the front ends. Just don't read the scope of work that you're doing, and review all the drawings. Read the notes on the drawing. It's amazing how much cost is covered in those notes that are on the drawings. And when it says as it pertains to another spec, read that other spec. So in the painting spec, as it says as pertains to the plumbing, go and read the plumbing specs. Are we going to expect you to do any of the, piping painting? Typically that's done by the plumber at the shop, but just make sure of that. So that when you send in your price, it's covering everything. So next slide, please. And again, for us and, most general contractors all have their system that they use. When you go out there, we are giving you the full set of documents. I know for this job, we're talking over 800 pages of specifications and over 600, pages of documents or of drawings, and then 7 addendum. So, go out there. If you can't, if for some reason the documents don't download for you, just let us know and we'll help you get them downloaded. So the next slide, please. So again, for a successful quote, and I know some of this seems like it's common sense, but believe it or not, we've have received quotes before from info@estimating.gmail. It's not on a company letterhead, it doesn't have a phone number, and it just says painting $50,000. Well, we don't even know what project it's for or anything. So to have your quote sent in to us, please make sure it's dated, name of the job, what scope you're doing, and the detail of your scope. Any exclusions that you have, acknowledge that you saw and read all addendum, clarify the tax status, clarify, the labor status that you bid it to prevailing rate, to Davis-Bacon, to union, to whatever, the requirements are. And acknowledge the proper insurance coverage. When we send out our invitation to bid, we're sending you out a sample subcontract agreement and our sample insurance requirements. Review them. If for some reason you don't have the insurance requirements that we're looking for, send it off to your broker. Have your broker let you know how much it would, increase, how much it would cost you to get our insurance coverage. On your bid, give us your base bid and say, here's an added cost for additional insured to meet your requirements. Because it goes, much higher level than mine, there are things we can do, for the insurance coverage and everything. So don't just always, look at this and say, oh, I can't bid it because I don't have this, I don't have that. Let's talk. Let's figure out how we can work together. Acknowledge if your firm is bondable, list your certifications. And again, like I said, this is silly, but put your contact name, the contact phone number for the estimator on the project. So if we have any questions, the estimator can reach you by phone or by email and list any additional requirements that may be unique to this project. So next slide, please. And when you're a successful bidder, I don't know about, your firms, but I know when Pike is successful bidder, we all hoot and holler and are excited. And then we say, oh, we better start reviewing the documents and see what we missed that made us low bidder. But, take a look once you find it out that, Pike is low bidder and that you had the low quote to us. Take a look again to make sure you have the right number, and then call us and communicate in any issues right away. Otherwise, just join us in the celebration. And if you're not the successful bidder, call us and ask for a D-scope meeting. A lot of times this might not happen again in a timely manner. You can call me and I can, let you know. I'm never going to share anybody's number, understand that. But I can say whether you were really low, really high, if you were in the middle of the ball, or, and then I can set you a meeting up with the estimator in charge of that scope of work so that you guys can go through the drawings and the documents even more carefully to figure out to help you get better the next time. We ask every client for a D-scope meeting. We want to know why we weren't the successful bidder and what we can do to be better. So next slide, please. So to build long-term relationships, let's communicate, stay in touch, follow up, listen to each other, remain open-minded, have candor, respect one another, approach it with humility. I think that was the thing that I noticed first when I started working in construction is there's a lot of arrogance in construction. And it's not bad, so remain humble. Let's set goals together. Let's exceed, expectations, and let's bid trust with one another, because the reality, this is a two-way street. You should be expecting that from everybody who works for Pike, and we expect that from our subs, our suppliers, our partners. We look at you on the project as being a partner. Yes, you're a subcontract, but you're really a partner to help us make the client happy and continue getting repeat customers. We have some other bids coming up, like Harbor Point, on the Munson Museum. We've got in the fall, we're going to have 3 or 4 projects coming out for the affordable housing. We've got a couple senior living. We're constantly bidding work. Stay in touch, get on our bid list, and let's work together. So understand too that we're going to be, if you're bidding a project that's New York State funded and it's going to be a contract of over $100,000, we're going to want your vendor responsibility questionnaire. So make sure that's up, to today. Your New York State DOL. There's a lot of different regulations. We're going to expect you to have all those before we can work with you. So I guess I can open it up to questions, Brendan.
Yeah. So just want to let everyone know any project specific questions can be directed towards Pike after the webinar. Obviously, we try to keep it general as we can, but we do have some questions in the chat and some that were sent in by the registers. So I'll go ahead and start. In the typical bid package, is concrete and rebar one scope of work, or is that typically 2 separate scopes, or does it depend on the project?
It depends on the project. We look at it typically as 2 different scopes of work, but we like to put it in one package, meaning that we're going to expect the contractor or the subcontractor who is doing the concrete to provide the rebar and the shop drawings and be in control of that. Other times, we're hiring the rebar installer, supplier and installer, and getting the shop drawings and all from you, and then hiring concrete separately. So it kind of depends. And again, when you're bidding, when you're looking at a project, just pick up the phone and let's call. I know I've talked to different firms before and they say, "Oh yeah, I looked at it, but it's just too big of a job for me." Let's talk about ways that we can make it smaller so that it's more manageable for you, whether it's a second tier opportunity, whether we can break apart the project so that you're doing a piece of the scope and we're subbing out, a piece of the scope to somebody else. There's always ways to work together. Let's just, call us. Let's figure it out together.
Yeah, that's great. I think that goes back to one of the tenets you had there with communication, right?
Right.
Always start early and continuously. So another question we had was, are there typical needs for MWB compliance monitoring on these types of projects or data management services?
Once in a while, we will hire out the data management, but it's very rare. It's on, a very large projects. Otherwise, we keep that in house. We have our own system. For compliance monitoring, there are opportunities when we get into our section, our, homes and community renewal, and they have Section 3 compliances. Again, on some larger projects, we will hire a compliance person who can be out there on the job site every day, making sure that, subs are, fulfilling their obligation for the M&W SDVOB participation. So it really depends, but for the most part, a lot of that is in-house through our shared services department. But yes, we have subbed it out in the past. It's just not something that we're going to do for every project. So again, it's something that we should be talking about.
Great. Another question from the group is, what financial readiness and reporting capabilities do prime contractors expect from MWB subcontractors in order to confidently award and support contract work?
Well, we're expecting you to be up to date on your taxes. We expect that there's not any complaints out there on the Department of Labor of not paying the, correct pay rate, not paying your subcontractor or your employees. It's making sure that you're up to date with suppliers, if you are a union, with your union dues. So once we decide to go into contract together, we do have a pre-qualification process, and that's going to go through all your financials. So we're going to be looking at your financials and making sure that you are strong enough. We will help you out and with early payments. So what that means is if you come on board with us, and it has to, and remember, all this has to be written into your subcontract, and we'd like to know this on bid day because, for the particular job we were talking about, it's a 1.5 to $200 million worth of work. If we're expected to pay contractors every 2 weeks for their labor and their material, that's going to really financially hurt Pike because the state is, we're going to turn our bill in every 30 days, and the state takes a little bit longer to pay. It's a huge organization. It's got a lot of steps to take before the check can get written. So it can be 30 to 60 days before we see a payment processed and the cash in our bank. So we have to, and on bid day, we're looking at every project we do like it's its own business. So we're looking at what the cash flow is going to be, what we need because it's expensive with mobilization, everything else. And then we look at, okay, how many subs are going to need help making, payroll and material costs, and where do they fall within the project? If everybody's going to, that we're bringing on will be there in the first 30 days of the project need help, that's going to financially hurt us. And in reality, we probably can't do it. But if it's a sub in the first quarter, sub in the second quarter type thing, then we're gonna do our best to work with you. But if you say, I'm gonna need help with labor and material, we're gonna make sure that you have at least the first 2 weeks of labor costs in the bank to be able to pay your labor. So say you need, 5 people on a prevailing rate project and they're carpenters, what's that, like $65 an hour times 5 people times 40 hours. We're going to be expecting you to be able to cover the first 2 weeks of labor out of your own account. And then you're going to turn in a bill to us and we're going to turn around and pay you that week so that you're always whole, but we want to make sure that you're at least financially set to cover the project for the first couple weeks that you get started. And then we're going to be there. I mean, we look out for our subs. We really do. We want to help you grow, but we need to know earlier than later. It goes back again to the communication. Let's find out earlier than later. We all started out small and grew, and grew. So, we want to help you grow. We're looking at it that you're going to be loyal to us. We want you to, your growth helps us grow is the bottom line.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I'll give ourselves a shameless plug here. If you haven't already been to the Bid Ready webinar series, we do have some videos, one on the Vend Rep system for New York State, which kind of gives you a little background as to what Pike and other primes may require when they're looking at your, capabilities, as well as some financing options from our small business unit. And you can find those on our Bid Ready webinar series as well. So thank you. And these kind of go together, and again, it may vary, but what are like the typical bonding or insurance requirements on these types of projects? They're kind of a baseline, or is it just vary project by project?
It varies project by project. I think this one for the general contractor at least will have some additional requirements because we do have to do underground utilities, under the main road there. So you're going to have traffic disruption, everything else. So that obviously puts it at higher risk. If you're working by a railroad, then you have the railroad insurance, and that's a pretty expensive insurance policy. So and it depends. So for us, we want a $5 million general liability. Donna, do you mind speaking up here a little bit on our insurances? Donna Jones is with our office, and she worked in the insurances while
Yeah,
helping me.
what I will say is definitely anytime we send out an invitation to bid, our requirements are right in with that invitation to bid. Like Kathy says, we got a 5 million general liability policy, but we've got specific standards for insurance, and you need to pay close attention to that when you're doing the bidding.
Thank you, Donna.
You're welcome.
And then for our bonding requirements, that's again going to vary job per job. Typically, we're looking for bonding on MEPs that are 300,000 or over. So it depends on the risk. We're typically not going to be asking for bonding from our painter, maybe the site work contractor, depending on the size of the work and how many, the underground utilities. Are we working by underground gas lines? We're looking at the risk. But pretty much read the front ends of the documents, because that filters down. So whatever is required from us by the owner will filter down, and it'll depend on your scope of work. But that's something that, again, we'll have a conversation about per job, per scope. Hopefully they answered the question.
Yeah, and I think, again, not to harp on it, but communication. If you're unsure, reach out to Pike. They'll help you out. They'll let you know what's expected on that project. So, all right, couple more. This one is specifically, how do suppliers of LED lights and fixtures or others participate as a subcontractor? So I guess we could kind of say, you know, as a supplier, what's the best way to participate on these types of projects?
Again, reach out to us, because what I'm going to be doing is sharing your information with all the electrical contractors that said will bid. And I'm going to be sharing the list of the electrical contractors who said they will bid with you to reach out to them. Unfortunately, I'm not going to recommend and say this is the greatest lighting company that ever existed. I'm just going to say, hey, here is a firm interested in working with you on this project. Please reach out to them. And I'm going to let you know, like I said, who's bidding. And believe it or not, there are suppliers who probably email me once a month saying, hey, Kathy, what projects are Pike bidding and how can I get involved? And I'll send them off if I have time, and they know that it's all time contingent. I'll send them, you know, we're bidding this project, this project, this project, and here's the subs who said we'll bid. And then,
Great.
you know, reach them out. And, you know, even if it doesn't work out on this bid, what I'm hoping is that people make connections and it's future relationships. Really hoping that it works out on this one, because we want to meet the goals, but we're also looking to make long-term connections for everybody.
Of course. Okay, let's go to a couple more live questions here. You know, do these projects typically include FF&E? And specifically office furniture in this case? But I think, you know, does this include, or most of these projects include FF&E?
Most of these projects include FF&E. And again, it like everything, it depends. So for the furniture end of it, on this one, we are going to, in our bid, is going to be any of the lab equipment and all like that. In the housing world, the furniture is going to be under the owner's contract, you know, the developer's scope of work. So it depends, but on this one, the FF&E is with this bid. There may be, I do believe that there are owner equipment requirements, but we're responsible for the hookup of that, because a lot of this lab equipment is going to have, you know, obviously electrical in it and all like that, and will require a hookup. But on this one, I can't think of any of the furniture fixtures that are in the owner's court. I believe they're all in the spec book and, you know, under the general construction, you know, under all of us working together.
Great. You know, the question that maybe we could pop the answer into the chat here for folks, but how does a firm get on Pike's bidders list?
Right now, if you go ahead and email myself at roonk@pikecs.com, and I did put it in the chat, my email address, I will send you either I'll do one of two things. I'll send you to the sub solicitation department to get you set up, or I will send you a QR code that you can get set up, and we'll get you set up into the system. We use what's called I Square Foot. It's part of the Construct Connect group. And what's nice about it is once you do the QR code and you get yourself set up, we will move you into our private directory, so that when we say we're, you know, doing a job in this location, requiring these scopes of work, you'll automatically get the invite. But it also puts you in the public part of Construct Connect. So when other firms are looking for subcontractors, you'll be showing up for them also. Subcontractors or suppliers.
Great. Let's see.
Yeah, I tried putting the QR code in the chat and it wouldn't take my pace, so
Yeah, okay. Just a couple more questions from the group here. Does Pike have a need for consulting professional services?
I know you guys love my answer of it depends. But it depends on the type of project it is. There's different times. I mean, I share the consultant's information. If it's, IT, I'm sharing it with our chief technology officer. If it's estimating, I'm sharing it with our head of estimating. If it's anything related to HR, accounting, whatever, I'm sharing it with the different departments. I'm sharing your information. And what I'm doing is I'm sending them saying, hey, I met this person or I have this person, this company's information, and I'm copying you in so that the two of you can connect. Because what happens, like we all know, if it's not needed today, you might forget about it tomorrow. So I try to share it with everybody. We have a shared folder where I'm putting like people's capabilities and different things out there. But like our shared services that I was talking about, we have in shared services as our safety department. It's our scheduling department. It's our, payroll department, HR department, risk management department. So there's a lot of different things that we get overwhelmed. And when a project calls for somebody specifically, then that's when we're looking to hire a consultant. I see somebody put in the chat about the CPM scheduling. There are times that the project is going to take a full-time scheduler. We're most likely going to sub that out to somebody versus hiring someone new for a short term. We're going to hire a consultant to do that and provide, the scheduling on a full-time basis.
Okay. There you go. Another opportunity. All right. I think we're down to our last couple questions here. If a project does require compliance monitoring, where is that advertised?
You know what? I don't know if we technically advertise that. It's more that I've met you at a show, we've had a conversation. We've already sat down and talked. So it's not necessarily that we're going to put that out, Because what I will do is I'll use a New York State because we are going to get competitive bids. We're not just going to, Brendan and I are buddies, so I'm going to hire Brendan. We're going to put it out there for a competitive bid. So I am going to use the New York State directory and the OGS directory to download the certified firms that do that. And I'm going to send you out an invitation to bid an RFP. This is what we're looking for. Send in your quote, and then it's going to be evaluated. And again, we're going to have conversations. This is what it's going to take. We're going to be looking at what other companies that you worked for, and what type of history do you have in doing that. So it's not that something like that. I've never put it out like on the contract reporter or the minority, commerce, weekly commerce. I typically we reach out to you guys, through email saying, here's an RFP. If you're interested, please respond by this date.
Gotcha. So again, it goes back to networking, right? It's those people, that you've met at the different events and shows or have spoken to and built those relationships with that you're typically going to reach out to when those opportunities come up.
Correct.
Okay. Make sure there's no new questions here. I think the last question here, someone's inquiring, are there any opportunities for services related to pre-construction, during construction, and post-construction operations? And I'm assuming it's cleaning, site cleanup, maybe, based on the person's title.
Yeah, and I would say on 99% of our projects, we're hiring a cleaning service, whether it's, post cleaning, final cleaning. And then, of course, on the larger projects, we're hiring cleaners to do our trailers on a weekly basis. It gets muddy and dirty out there, so sometimes it might be twice a week, but we hire people to do the trailer cleaning also, yes.
Okay, great. I think that is it from the active Q&A. If anyone has an additional question, I think we have a minute or two. You can put it in the Q&A. All right. With that, I'll pass it off to Daniela.
Thanks, Brendan. All right, we have a couple of announcements and some resources to share before the end of our session today. So first is we have our next Bid Ready webinar will be on May 13th from 1 to 2 p.m. with Turner and Gilbane. They'll be discussing the next bid package on their project in Albany, which is the Life Sciences Public Health Lab. You can register, and I will share the link with you in the chat if you would like to register right now. Next is ESD's Division of Minority and Women's Business Development is hosting a series of in-person pop-up events across the states. The next one will be up in Albany on Monday, April 27th. There will also be currently scheduled in May. There will be one in the Bronx, and also Long Island. They are going across the state, so they will be everywhere. I'm going to share the link for more information and for registration to pop-up events as well in the chat. So feel free to take a look at those and take advantage of them. They're a great opportunity. ESD is also hosting an MWBE Expo at the Javits Center on July 23rd. Keep an eye on ESD's website for more information about that. It's a few months out, so we don't have anything to share with you specifically on the website just yet, but keep an eye. Finally, join our Division of Minority and Women's Business Development team's live webinar on preparing your finances for government contracting, which is happening tomorrow. You can register online, and I will share the link in the chat for you right now.
And Danelle, could I just say that Pike is going to be at the event on April 27th. So you can meet some of our operations people from our Albany office who will be there representing Pike. So stop by and say hello and find out from their perspective how to get working with us.
Thanks, Kathy. That's an excellent opportunity to meet Kathy's team in person and ask some additional questions on different projects that they are putting forth. Okay. In terms of resources, ESD has many resources to help you and your business become prepared to work on larger contracts. We are here to support you, so take advantage. First up on here, we have the Capital Access Program. So visit ESD's website for information on it. Bid Ready's webpage also has an introductory video on Capital Access called Path to Success. But the State Small Business Credit Initiative is expanding New York State Capital Access Program with $6.4 million to provide matching funds to financial institutions for loan loss reserves as an incentive to increase small business lending. So I will put the link to that service in the chat as well. And again, this is all on ESD's website, but as I talk about specific programs, I will share the link. Next, we have the Entrepreneurship Assistance Centers, or EACs. They are an enterprise development program with centers located in communities throughout New York State that provide instruction, training, technical assistance, and support services to individuals who are interested in starting or recently started their own business, or entrepreneurs seeking to expand or strengthen their early stage business. Another great opportunity. And that link is coming to you now. New York Small Business Development Centers provide no-cost, confidential, one-on-one business advisement, training, and research to small business owners and entrepreneurs throughout the state. So that is the Small Business Development Centers. Sharing that link right now. We also wanted to highlight the Manufacturing Extension Program, which is a network of organizations that provide growth and innovation services to small and mid-sized manufacturers in every corner of the state to help them create and retain jobs, increase profits, and save time and money. And then finally, we wanted to highlight the GoSemi office. Some of the team members on GoSemi are in the room here today, but GoSemi is the Governor's Office of Semiconductor Expansion, Management, and Integration. They are also a big part of BidReady. There is a lot of development happening in Central New York, as you might have heard, and there are many projects underway and upcoming, so stay tuned to the BidReady series for more information and events down the line. And GoSemi's webpage in the chat for you now. So finally, please stay in the loop. We will be doing many more live webinars, such as the Turner Gilbane one on the 13th. We have quite a few pre-recorded webinars already on our webpage and on our YouTube channel. We have the link to our webpage right here and also our email address. So please stay in touch. But that is all for you today. Thank you so much for joining us, and a special thank you to Pike Construction Services. Please keep an eye on our webpage. Thank you so much for coming. And if you have any questions, feel free to email us.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Kathy.